Good morning and afternoon, wherever you coming in from. I told you I was gonna bring you a show today, and I'm in my special place. I'm actually in my office. Lucy is in her special place, and y'all, we have had a knockdown drag out the last 7 minutes that almost got us canceled.
Oh my
So
goodness.
you know what? Because it almost got us canceled, we really got us. I want to start in that place of tension. And when we start talking about boundaries today and dealing with those places of tension, how do we communicate, Lucy, as a man and a woman, heterosexuals?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're communicating one thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're saying one thing, but you communicated something else. I say one thing and communicate something else. So we just need to establish some boundaries today. I think you and I need to establish some boundaries so that me and you won't get on each other's nerves. Good morning, Shirley Moore. Minister Moore's in the house. Minister Moore, tell us in your season living, how do we establish boundaries? My cousin Shannon is in the house. What's going on, family? We're
So,
trying to establish some boundaries, y'all.
according to Oxford, a boundary is defined as a line that marks the limits of an area or a dividing line. So, when you establish boundaries, that's the purpose, right? And boundaries are healthy. And sometimes they make people uncomfortable, but they are necessary in order to have healthy relationships and healthy communications. And when you have those, you have healthy outcomes. How about that, Pastor Hill?
How about you almost said this is messy and we not gonna do this.
Well,
Now,
that's
no,
right.
listen, Linda, listen. And we in a good space. Yes, Aretha said RESPECT. Find out what it means to me. You right. When we start talking about boundaries
Mm-hmm.
and putting them in place in relationships, I often struggle to be a good listener because listening has its levels.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm ignoring or pretending or being selective when we are establishing the boundary lines, it's going to be detrimental to the relationship in that moment and especially down the road. And you and I both have lived enough life where any shit we was in, where the boundaries or the expectation within those boundaries were not clearly communicated.
Well, I can't speak for you. I'm gonna take you at your word that that's what you have experienced. But I think it's not so much that the boundaries may not be clearly communicated. People not don't always respect the boundary that's being established or attempting to be established. Um, since you want to give people behind the scenes information about the podcast discussion today, for I'm gonna use an example we had on yesterday. Um, you asked me to do something. I said, no, that can't be done. And then you say, well, yes, you can. And so, no, if I have communicated that I can't do something, and then you tell me, you respond instead of saying, oh, okay, I accept that she can't do that. You respond with, yes, you can. Then that is a violation of a boundary. You're not accepting that established boundary. And it wasn't about what was communicated, because I clearly communicated that it couldn't be done. So I think sometimes the challenge with establishing and respecting boundaries is the boundary establishment doesn't give the one party the desired outcome.
Sister Goodner, what are you amen into? I just need to know for clarity's sake because we're talking about boundaries. And Shirley says, good point. Clearly, what you said couldn't be done, could and was done. It just wasn't clearly communicated on my end what needed to be done so that it could be done. So I'm operating in this set of boundaries that it could be done because it already had been done. I just didn't know what button to click because I've never done it like that. Let me say this, oftentimes in relationship and leadership, when you do something the first time, you're not good at it. Case in point, and I'm going to listen. Oh, look, they talking. Thank you, Sister Goodner. Popular man of God, and I respect him for everything that he represents. He says, the first time I tried to be monogamous was in my marriage. Not before then did I even try to be monogamous. So now that I'm married, I'm trying to do something I've never done. Never. Like he never done it. So the outcome of being monogamous, just because you're married, when you haven't never done it, it's gonna be it presents its own challenges. That's all I'm saying. Now you can roll with that, take it for what it's worth, put me in another box of limitations, set some new boundaries and guidelines, call out the safety zone. But we in here in this space because you and I ran into a roadblock, but we got over it because we kept communicating. How about if you would have stayed in your feelings?
So
I'm gonna let you have it. If you stayed in your feelings, and we wouldn't have never gotten to this point. This is, and you didn't have any expletives or hashtags, but you were very adamant in the point you made. So I digress. Don't assume, because you know what?
So what we're gonna do, the boundary number one,
okay,
that we're gonna establish in this conversation is we're gonna communicate factually and clearly. Because I don't know I don't know what the roadblock is you're referencing. I don't know if you're referencing what happened this morning. I don't know. You're not clear. You're not communicating clearly what the roadblock is. But before we go and deal with that, let's go back to communicating about, you said the thing you asked me to do had been done before, but so you knew it could have been done, and maybe it just hadn't been done that way. So again, you didn't ask in totality of what you apparently knew had been done before. You asked me to do something, and I said I could not do that. And you communicated back to me, yes, you can. So now the old me, before the Lord had his way, would have said something like, so since you're so smart, you do it yourself. But we thank God for Jesus and deliverance. But no, I said, no, I'm establishing a boundary. And I communicated to you, sir, that I can't do that. So maybe somebody else can. In the conversation, in the moment that you and I were discussing the task request, I could not do that. I could not deliver. And so I ask you to accept that I said, no, I can't do it. So now, and it wasn't, and even having this conversation, you're still not accepting that I said, no, I can't do it. You are using it as a reference point to communicate that it could have been done, right? So that's how ships of whatever sort damaged, because
how they sink.
people do not accept and respect the boundary that someone is trying to establish. Now, with that said, could you clearly communicate to me which roadblock you're referencing so I can respond to that appropriately? Thank you so much.
Boy, I will just play the sound because you owe what? I love it. Check this out.
Thank you, Ms. Goodner. I like that comment. You cannot make me fully responsible for what you are responsible for. That's a boundary. And that's good.
sister, auntie, cousin, niece. That's what she is.
Uh-huh.
Was it ever communicated what the other person was responsible for? Or have you literally, listen, have you communicated that expectation to you, what you're responsible for? To you and then to the other persons or parties? I mean, that's a universal question. Then,
This is
secondly,
good. This is
yeah,
good. You know
because
why
I'm
it's
telling
good?
you,
Because
I'm
as
gonna
a
tell you,
woman, as a
hold
look,
on.
look, but as a woman, I see her comment as responding to the what she's observing in this our discussion. Her
Hmm.
comments are based on this discussion.
Hmm.
So for you to ask her, has it been communicated? Again, it's based on what we're discussing. And I just explained how it was communicated. And that's her response. But I'm going to be quiet and let and this is how men and women are different. And Ms. Goodner, please let me know if I understood the reference point for your comment. So we can have the dialogue about how men see things differently than how women see things.
Because we see things differently.
Correct.
Because I saw this as an opportunity for us to get here.
Mm-hmm.
We hit a roadblock because I didn't check a box. That's all I needed to do was check a box. But it was never communicated to me on your end previously to check the box. So how many times in relationships do you just think I assume and know something when I don't even know that a box needs to be checked? Watch this, because a new feature has been added. Now, come on, preach off that.
Oh, okay, but you are
Come on, come on, come
again,
on, come
you
on.
are a new feature that neither one of us have used before. So I'm by nature and by profession, I'm a change agent. I'm a project manager. I think through situations to understand, to get to cause and effect type results. So if we tested something prior to and it worked fine, following all the same steps, what could be wrong? So in my mind, all I could think about is maybe he has his settings established a certain way because I don't know.
His settings. That's
Right.
good.
I don't know what your settings are. I don't know what the problem is, but what I do know is that we were proactive and had a dry run to test this new feature. And then when it's time to go live, we run into now I understand the reference for the roadblock. Yeah. So
Now,
again,
do is there a
you
is there an apology warranted now that you understand the reference?
no, because you didn't communicate what you were talking about.
Ooh, did y'all hear that? She said, "I'm not apologizing
No,
because
you asked me a question. No,
what you
you said is an apology warranted?
warranted."
I
Yeah.
said no. I didn't say I wasn't apologizing. I answered your question. There's a
Now,
difference.
so what was communicated to me that you're not apologizing,
Okay.
and
Well,
that's cool.
yeah.
But see how we on this. What's okay now that you're in this fog and you've coming out of you this fog, because I'm seeing it as a fog. You said something about the deliverables early. What can you deliver now? What are the what are the deliverables in the relationship, or what's expected in the deliverables when we are not hearing what the other is communicating? What are the deliverables?
You have to keep having conversations. One, you have, in my opinion, the deliverable should be um in this case an effective boundary that two people have agreed to. And so when you run into these type of situations, right, there was communication conflict and one person feels I think I deserve an apology. The other person feels like no, I don't think an apology is warranted. So then you go to this place. I want to share something that a takeaway from the Woman Evolve conference this year. And they were talking about boundaries. And this was Dr. Brene Brown sharing with us someone else's definition of a boundary. Let me see if I can share this.
as she's sharing. This show is brought to you by the Ephesian Primitive Baptist Church, 1506 22nd Avenue, North Nashville, Tennessee. This show is brought to you by Divine Drips. Call Torsha Hudson. Divine Drips. She's an RN for cold, flu, hangovers, migraines, all your IV needs. Go to ivfluids.com and ask for Torsha Hudson. This show is brought to you by Walker's Cafe and Grill, 109 Ewan Drive from 12 to 5. And this show is brought to you by Destinations Loading for your Fun Friday, Freedom Friday every 2 weeks. Go to destinationsloading.com. Yes.
Well,
So
maybe
all of those things. No, you're fine. And I can pull it up. I
Yeah,
can pull it up
pull
and
it up.
play it. Let me play it through the phone. Let
Mm-mm.
me see. Let me play it. They can hear it because and hey, if anybody has any sponsorships today that you would like for Lucy and I to buy Walker's
we
Cafe
can
and Grill, we will definitely highlight those. Did you just hear that, Lucy?
Mm-mm.
You didn't hear nothing? Let me see. You send it to me. Can you hear that?
I'll leave
Yeah.
you with the definition of a boundary, which I think is key to everything. A boundary is the space at which I can love both you and me.
A boundary is the space that I can love both you and me. That's a boundary.
Mhm.
That's a boundary. The space in which I can love both you and me. And oftentimes in relationships, we get it so convoluted and conflicted that we forget to establish a boundary where both of us can be loved by each other.
Mhm.
I'm guilty. And just not only in a spousal relationships, but let's just talk about parental.
Mhm.
I mean, we always love our children, but
Mhm.
we don't establish those boundaries. And I need to operate in a space, Sister Goodner, where I can love you and me. So you went to Woman Evolve,
Mhm.
and apparently, y'all, she's totally different. I don't know what Sarita do. I'm gonna start talking about the Sarita juice. I'm gonna say Sarita and Sarita Jakes, girl, I'm coming for you. I love you. I love your dad. I love the ministry, but I'm coming for you, Sarita, because these ladies have come back and I gotta set some new boundaries.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. So what's your question about the conference?
You go to this conference, and this is not your first time. See, a lot of people, it was their first time. You've been following Sarita, and I kudos to you for that.
Yeah.
And you being who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Unpack the new boundaries that you have of just you, because you have experienced this conference on so many levels and occasions before you even deal with me. Because I got a side of Lucy today that I was like, okay, I'm dealing with Lulu today. And it's not time for Lulu. We about to go live, but Lucy is on Lulu today, or Lulu is on Lucy. And
Oh my goodness.
I had to get in another posture, like real talk. Listen, good thing I'm at church in my office. How about that?
Praise God, praise God.
Praise God.
So it's Sarah Jakes Roberts is the daughter, and it was her conference, and Sarita is the mother.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that how I came back different is with those boundaries, right? I mean, Dr. Anita Phillips was there and she spoke and she talked about, she showed us, and I recommend everybody get that book, The Garden Within. And she showed us in scripture and I don't know the word to use, but in 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 um in the terms of the neuron and a seedling, when
Mm-hmm.
two side by side, how they look exactly the same.
Mm.
and she showed the connections from the heart and all through our body, and it was just amazing. And so when the boundary was so important to me, because in her book she talks about boundaries as well, and she says that a boundary is not a boundary if it doesn't have consequences. A
Slow
boundary,
down. Slow down. Say that again.
boundary without consequences is not a boundary, but it's a preference.
Stop. So you said something else. You've said something, but you've communicated a multiplicity of things. I know where you're going because we've already had this conversation.
Mhm.
But I just want you to be aware that what I told you to repeat, you really didn't repeat it. You actually said something totally different. So luckily, you and I've had this conversation. But for somebody who has not had this conversation and do not know where you're going, I'm confused by what you just said.
So a boundary.
Come on. Where the women at on that? Where the women at? Y'all was all on loose.
With some of the confusion is because you won't let me speak. Because I'm go, let's communicate clear boundaries. It's starting to feel like, right, this is about this, and I'm not doing that. That's a boundary for me, right? So you asked me to repeat something, right? Words are important to me. You don't tell me, right? Because I'm an adult, right? So what she communicated in the book is that a boundary without consequences is not a boundary, but it's a preference. So I did rearrange those words when I said it the first time, and you asked me. I can't even tell you what I said the first time, but the essence of it did not change, right? A
Yes, it
boundary.
did.
No, it did not. No, it did
Yes,
not. Because a
not for you, it didn't. For you, it didn't.
okay, so we're gonna see.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Boundaries.
So I confusion because I can't speak. I'm communicating. I'm trying to, and so now you are, and I'm not going to do that. So I'm gonna let you share with your listeners, because this is your show.
Our listeners.
This is your show.
Our
And,
listeners.
what is it that you would like them to know about boundaries?
Sarah Jakes, you done messed the word. You done messed these ladies' heads up. Dr. Anita Phillips, I do like her. I do listen to her. As a matter of fact, Destiny's Child, Michelle, she has a podcast. Check in with Michelle, and Dr. Anita Phillips was on her podcast, and I actually sent that podcast to a few people. I know I sent you another one, but for those watching, and no shade to anybody, but Dr. Anita Phillips, when you see her name somewhere, people listen to what she has to say.
Yeah.
Because she comes with a plethora of wisdom and knowledge that is, to me, unprecedented in this time and season and era. I asked you to say something. You said it. I tried to pause you, but you kept talking, which is fine, because I knew you was going to say what you said last with more emphasis. I knew that. But to me, if I had not listened to this previous conversation, there's a possibility I would be lost in what you said last. Because a boundary without consequences is a preference. But that's not what you said first.
I didn't finish what I said, but your original question to me. Let's move on. We on boundaries. Let's move on so we can have a good show for people.
It's a great show
for people to pull something of value from, and not a bicker session. So your original question to me is, what was my major takeaway, and that was boundaries, because I saw how Dr. Phillips showed us how things affect your body. And when you don't understand, you just think you're going through the motion, but stress, all these things, they have a negative effect on your body. And so with me and my desire to live a long, healthy, and vibrant life, all the years that I'm entitled to according to scripture, I am very intentional about how I expend my time, my energy, my words, and if I have established boundaries and they are for me not respected, I have made a conscious decision and committed to remove myself from those environments.
Mm, that's
So,
bound. That's a new boundary.
mhm.
What's going on, cousin? She
And
said, I
so,
think the way you said it the second time was more. It was.
mhm. Because if you don't have boundaries, let's go deep on these boundaries.
Let's
Okay.
go. I'm here
So,
for it.
so um, we grow up as children. You were a young boy, I was a young girl. We live in homes where our parents, in our culture, they say, we didn't really have rights. I'm gonna talk about my house because I didn't live in your house. I'm talking about my house.
Do as I
So
do.
in my house, my parents, my mom and dad were married. My dad was the man of the house. He paid the bills. We had very little rights when it comes to um we could, you can't slam a door in here. That's my door. You don't own that door. Why,
What? You said the door.
why is
Slam
my
the
door
door?
closed? Everything belonged to the parents, right? So
Right.
guess what? The little girl grows up to become a woman. The woman leaves her daddy's home where she had, little rights because and little right to establish boundaries inside the home, right?
Mm.
Little right to establish boundaries inside the home, and then you go and get married. Okay, you go get married to a man that now he pays all the bills. So guess what? His mentality is that I pay all the bills and I take care of all these things. So there are no boundaries. Whatever I do is okay. You figure out how to deal with that, right?
Mm.
So then now adult woman goes into the corporate world, right? And now what you don't realize until later in life is that your voice, every time that happens, your voice and your ability to establish the boundaries that you need for you has been diminished little by little by little until you get to that place and you come into that understanding and know who you are in Christ. I'm speaking about me. And and gradually I have found more and more of my voice. I am more comfortable in establishing boundaries. I'm more comfortable in standing on what I believe my value and my worth is. And I don't need validation from people that I used to think I needed validation from. So now that is my major takeaway from Woman Evolve. Not that I didn't know Christ before, not that I didn't know before I went that I was fearfully and wonderfully made, but now I was in a room with 40,000 women.
Talk.
And the Holy Spirit take full control of Globe Life Field in a way I have never experienced before. And any woman know Black Friday with a bunch of women, something gonna pop off. It don't matter. You cannot have that many women or humans, period. But really, we talking to women. But when I tell you, every woman in the building had love one for another. You didn't see a space where somebody wasn't loving on somebody. And a lot of
My.
some of those people may not have even known each other. So
Right.
I've done a lot of sharing there.
And they were great shares. Let me say that. They were great.
A lot of sharing. And so I think it's important for us in our community, especially, to be okay with establishing boundaries. And men, the men that love us, right? Our men be okay with us establishing boundaries. Doesn't mean we don't love you any more than we did the day before. Doesn't mean we don't respect you any more than we did the day before. We just want you to partner with us as we have now learned to value ourselves and establish those boundaries.
That's good. Somebody put that in the chat. Partner with us. Look, Angie's on it. That's my folks from back home. Thank you, Angie. Cuz listen, you said something. Partner with us as we learn to establish those boundaries and bring equity into society. And I don't want to be too technological, but I had to say it that way because let's go back. You know me, Wheezy Jefferson. What was the boundaries? Let's just talk. Let's talk. Let's go there.
You tell us, because a perspective, everybody's perspective is different.
I grew up watching Wheezy Jefferson.
Okay.
You and I grew up watching Wheezy Jefferson. Archie Bunker, All in the Family. The Jeffersons. What were the boundaries? I'm the man. I run the house. I set the boundaries. You play my game. The Cosby comes along in the 80s and sets a new boundary to me. Because now you have an empowered individual who literally rivals. It's not so much, I don't want to call it, who complements your paycheck and your professionalism. Because Claire was the doctor. Claire was the lawyer. Heathcliff was the doctor. We have to set some new boundaries. And now that we have gotten into reality TV, the boundaries have totally been shifted again. So I thank God, and let me make my point and I raise my question. What's up, Sheila? I thank God for Woman Evolve because women have evolved. Even in the concept of a man, where we've had established some boundaries that were very narcissistic and misogynistic. I'll say it that way. And you and I both come from the old South. Don't do as I do. Do as I say. Which has scarred a whole culture and a community of people as we move forward, because now I don't know what to deliver, or the deliverables that you talked about earlier, because I have a set of boundaries that you don't have. When you don't deliver, then you know the consequences. I ain't gonna say no more. So here's the question. Let me read this statement. The world does not want us to recognize that we are created equal, even in the spiritual world, as women must fight. Yeah, yes. Angie's dropping nuggets today. So here's my question, lady, woman of God. Your aggravation earlier stem from what exactly?
So
me not listening. What was it? Your aggravation earlier? Because it's a good place. Because it's about deliverables and new boundaries.
Because I'm saying to you, and I want us to come back to all the things you said, because I think some of that, those aren't boundaries, that those are value differences in values, right?
Okay.
Value, the Huxtables to reality TV, that's not boundaries, those are values. There's a shift in values. But what, to answer your question about what you said, was it because you were not listening? That's correct. Because I'm saying to you, okay, we did a dry run. Yes. And the option that is supposed to show up on my end is not showing up. So we have, I said, let me go back out to see if it's user error on my part, right? So let me log out, and I'm gonna come back in to see if I did something wrong. Hence, that's why I didn't feel like there was an apology necessary, because I, put effort into. Let me see if I'm the problem. I'm always start with me. So when I do that, and that's not the problem, okay. Now you say you did everything we did before. I'm not getting the deliverable that's supposed to come out of that. So now we have a problem. Sure, we can do this again, or start from scratch with the setup, or I'm not doing it because it wasn't working for my audience, right? And so I wanted my audience to get the same effect. Did we lose him? I wanted my audience to get the same effect from the live stream that your audience is receiving, right? And so when there was uh, the roadblock that came up, and you shared, well, we've done all of that, and and you said, well, I'm gonna go live, Lucy, and then we'll try to figure it out. And I said, no. That'll be messy. That'll be confusing, to the viewers. Because then if we still haven't solved the problem, guess what we just did? Made a bigger mess, right? Oh, if the issue has not been resolved, oh, this is good. If the issue has not been resolved, and we decide to move forward, hoping for a different outcome, having done the research, got the necessary understanding of what the real problem is, we were going to end this discussion. May have ended our relationship. Our relationship could have very well been over this particular podcast, because I was asking you and you weren't listening. You kept, instead of receiving what I'm saying, right? And this happens when people are trying to establish boundaries. You're presenting me with an alternative that was not conducive to both parties. Thank you for
She said, but aren't you grateful that we worked through
I am.
what we worked through?
Yes.
To establish boundaries.
Yes.
See, that's the thing. When people grow,
Mm-hmm.
come on, Lucy.
Yes.
Who you were at 22 as a wife, you're not who you are now. Like, you're not that same person. Your boundaries have changed.
Oh yeah.
Like, you're bound. And like you said, we could have look, they going out. That was real good. Look, that's what I got from it. Angie, everybody's on that. Check this out. And not that our relationship was in jeopardy, y'all. We cut up. But you're right, though.
Mm-hmm.
How much fruit have you prematurely thrown out because you didn't go through the necessary process so that it could ripen? You can look back over your life, Stacy, and see that there were some things that you cut off because you didn't take the next step. If you would only taken the next step, that possibly could have had a different outcome. I use your words, Lucy Lou. If you would have taken the next step, but because somebody was not willing to listen, and somebody was not willing to take the next step, and somebody was too disturbed to provide instruction, because listen, y'all, listen. The only thing I had to do was check a box. I'm talking about check a box. But that was not communicated on the front end earlier when she and I talked. So for me, it was nothing. For her, it was everything, simply because I didn't check a box. And how many times, Lucy, in our lives do we not check the box and take the next step and forfeit some fruitful experiences with God and people just because we're too disturbed to check the box or take the next step?
That's a very good analogy, but I think it needs a little clarity. Because there are situations in life where you can be, you don't want to. I'm going to stand firm in my position, right? And I'm not. I don't care what you say. I don't care. This what I'm not going to do, or this is what I'm going to do, and this is how this is going to be. No, and you keep stating that you didn't receive the communication. We didn't know that neither one of us knew that you needed that communication. That response, right? The question that I said, look at your settings. That is from what I do every day on my job. That had nothing to do with this me knowing this platform or this new feature, that is a built-in reaction, right? That I say, okay, if we've done everything that we can do, let's check the settings, because the settings, oh, this good. The settings can sometimes limit your access. So,
Shut your mouth. Now you need to drop, run.
oh my God, that was good.
You
But see, and that's why you have to take time.
say that again, though.
But
Say that again.
the settings
Can what?
sometimes limit your access.
Say that one more time. I need to hear one more time.
You silly.
No,
Really,
no.
and let's make it plain. The settings, your mind, your mindset, right,
Can limit.
can limit your access. So it's important that when we are evaluating responses and situations, we look at it from a 360-degree perspective, so we can get full understanding to maximize our access to what, Lucy? Access to what God has already intended for our lives, access to what our relationships should be like, access to what our career should be like, access to what operating in our spiritual gifts should be like. And we can't take it personal. Yes, mindfulness, Stacy. Yes, mindfulness. Yes. See, this is such a good example of what the enemy meant for evil.
Ooh, watch out now. Don't start it.
But God made it for our good. Yes. Yes, Lord. I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna be quiet
Why?
right there.
What's
Oh
the
my
next?
God,
No.
this is so good. And so, but I commend you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why the partnership is so important. Society, and we're gonna go back to those things you were talking about, the Huxtables, and now we done moved into the reality TV shows, right? That's not a shift in boundaries. That's a shift in virtue. That's a shift in values. That what we saw in a woman of the house in the Huxtables is not what we see in these reality shows.
In Empire.
I'm not
Cookie Lions.
I'm just not watching them. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, but I mean, just for references, and I love the fact that she's a great actor, and the show was it's fictitious anyway, but there were some boundaries in Lucius and Cookie's relationship. I mean, this is where we are as a cult, and people use this as their cues. So let me throw this at her, Jacqueline and Stacy and Angie and Sheila Taylor Simmons, them your people.
Yes, that's my cousin. Hey, cousin.
Listen, let me throw it at you this way. If you were raised in an environment where your perception of boundaries is totally different from your partner's perception of boundaries, there's going to be a lot of difficulties and roadblocks in the relationship moving forward. It's just going to be that. That's a hard knock life for us. That's where we are when I find myself with a different frame of reference and context than you. Relationally, it's going to cause some barriers. Let me say barriers. Relationally. Relationally, it's going to cause a lot of barriers. And
and again, it doesn't matter which type of relationship. I'm gonna use an example on because I put a lot of energy into really trying to before I come to a conclusion about a situation or a person, I start with me. And being in leadership, I think that's important, because my job as a leader is to help people present the best version of themselves in their current role. And if they have desires to go to another level, that, you know, I can help them with that as well. So I was challenged. God placed me in this, all God doing. God placed me in this role. Here I am, African American female from Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
now going to work in the what's that? The
West,
Northwest, the
North,
Northwest.
North, West.
And so I don't know that it's a lot of people there that look like me. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna say that the people on my team didn't have a lot of interaction with people with people like me. How about that?
Of course, let's
And
say that.
I can't. I had to have a level of, like Miss Stacy is saying, I had to have empathy for them in their situation, because everything that every way they may respond, and everything they say, they may not truly be trying to be racist, right? They
Right.
haven't had an encounter that has made them have to understand and take the temperature in the room and know how to communicate with people who aren't like them or look like
Mhm.
them. And so, or from the same race than them and from same geographical background. You know, so there were a lot of dynamics in that situation where things were different. So before I could establish the boundaries, I had to baseline, right? When you use this word, what does that word mean to you?
Got you.
When you use, so then when I listen, right? Let them all. Okay, where I'm from, that's not what that means.
Right. Right.
Where I'm from, that means XYZ. And when you say that to a person like me, you will get this reaction.
Well,
So
because of where you from.
right, because that's, that is what it is. So now that we understand what that word means to you, what that word means to me, unless this is the reaction you're going for, which that reaction will not be professional. And now if you use that word again, your use of it is not professional, because I have communicated to you what it means when you use that word to other people that don't look like you.
So you setting the boundary.
Right. Exactly.
But it has taken something of that magnitude for that boundary to be set. Or not saying that magnitude, but setting boundaries are, let me put it this way. Quit thinking setting boundaries are automatic. You have to be intentional.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be very intentional in any relationship, setting a boundary. It has to be some intentionality behind it. If not, we will always have these communication gaps. And like Alan Greenspan, I know you think you understand what you thought I said, but I'm not sure that what you heard is what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah, I know you think you understand what you thought I said, but I'm not sure that what you heard is what I meant. So sometimes, no, all the time, communication is key. You have to over communicate anything, even your love. Yes, Angie, even your love. God over communicated his love because he sent his son. We can't miss that up. We can misconstrue what Moses said, Abraham said, David said, Solomon said, Jeremiah said, but we can't misconstrue what Jesus said. I died. I over communicated that. This is what it means to me. So Paul comes back and says, present your body a living sacrifice. I get that now because I have an example before me who set the boundary. So I'm grateful for boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful for communication. I'm grateful that you and I can share this space as young adults. Well, we ain't young adults no more. We middle-aged, aren't we? We middle-aged adults.
Speak for yourself, son. Speak for yourself.
Oh.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
If your what'd your grandmama call you right now? She won't call you no young adult. We good. I'm good. I'm grateful for who I am and where I am in life. Because I celebrate you and I for both where we are in life. Because we've been through some tumultuous experiences and setting boundaries through cultures that are shifting and changing. Like you said
Mm-hmm.
earlier, values have changed so much.
Mm-hmm. So
So I'm good. I'm good. Angie Homer comes back and said, Angie, we were actually watching Feet Sunday, Angie, if you want to come to church, if you're in the city. I don't know. No, you won't. You probably gonna be at the football game. I got you. But we watching Feet Sunday. Yes, here. Ephesians 8:30 and 11. We're watching feet. Mm-hmm.
So I think that I think my last point is, and I think Stacy Smith, she hit on it. That boundaries sometimes come by trial and error, right? You don't. There are times, and that's where they really start. You think something happened, right? Something happened. There are some general boundaries.
Yes.
Keep your hands to yourself.
Yes.
If you can't, you don't have anything nice to say, don't say nothing at all. Those type of things. We've been raised with some general boundaries, but
Right.
there are things that happen in life that require you to establish boundaries, and that's what I was the point I was trying to make with that example of the team in on the Northwest. I didn't know going in that I was going to need to set that particular boundary, but something happened, and okay, now we need to establish a boundary. You just I and I think is you have to take the emotion out of it a lot of times.
That's so difficult.
Yeah, to be effective.
That's so difficult, though. I mean, just being honest, taking the emotion out of it.
So I mean, when you're being in certain environments, I mean, you got to take the emotion out. Now you can
Mhm,
deal with your emotion afterwards, away
mhm.
from that situation, but you can't bring emotion into a space where you're trying to establish boundaries. It's not going to be effective.
Hmm.
Now, an emotion can drive you to a desire or a need for the boundary, but
But
you can't be all emotional when you're
mm,
trying to establish boundaries.
my. So we close with this, and you and I can talk. A boundary without a consequence is
Mm,
not a boundary, but a preference. A boundary without a consequence is not a boundary, but a preference. I'll say it again. A boundary without a consequence is not a boundary, but a preference.
mhm.
Dr. Anita Phillips, The Garden Within. Yes, a boundary without a consequence is not a boundary, but a preference. Hey, thank y'all for tuning in to Capricares. Y'all know what I say. Know that I care and care that I know. Lucy Arrington. Lucy, where can we follow you on social media? Because you've dropped some nuggets today so the people
Oh
can
yeah,
know.
thank you for that. I drop daily nuggets on TikTok at Destination Loading, and that's with no G. I drop nuggets on Destination Loading with Lucy on Facebook page and Instagram. And this recording and others can be found on our YouTube channel, Destination Loading with Lucy. And you can feel free to, let me put my website in there. Y'all go check out the website.
Yeah, put the website up. As y'all coming in, Angie Holman is in the house. Angie, what's the score Sunday night? I know we got some Dallas Cowboy fans on here. I'm sorry, Jacqueline Gilbert Franklin. Jackie, you're not a Cowboy fan, are you? Are you a Cowboy fan? Uh, Cowboys, 49ers. What's the score? Somebody put it I know why you're a 49er. Your baby is a 49er. Yeah, look. Jackie said yes. Angie has a son who's one of the tight ends for the 49ers.
Okay.
So, uh, come on. Yeah. So, and Jackie, tell me what's the score? Jackie, what's your prediction? What's your prediction, Jackie? Sunday night football. Listen, y'all, you would think this game was the Super Bowl. I'm serious. We got so much more football to play, and we be realistic. But you would think this game was the Super Bowl. So, Jackie, what's your prediction? Angie, I know your prediction. Everybody weigh in Sunday night. We're going to be right in front of the TV watching the 49ers and the Cowboys. Yes. Both of them talking about win. No, I need numbers. I need numbers. But anyway, y'all know that I care that I know. It's Capricares. It's Conversation with Cornelius. It's Destinations Loading with Lucy. Lucy, did you put your website in there?
I did. Realtimesolutions.com and time is TYME.
There.
There we go.
So realtimesolutions.com for professional development, for spiritual formation. Can I say that?
Sure.
Spiritual formation, professional development. Go to realtimesolutions.com. We're going to bring her in to Nashville soon. Listen, Jacqueline Gilbert Franklin, she was once primitive Baptist daughter. She's primitive. So God had her on assignment. Now he's brought her back. So we're glad we having you. And I'm glad that we checked the box so this could get off the ground.
Yes.
For real.
God had a word for the people.
It's about your mind.
That's it.
The system allows you access. Girl, if you don't preach that somewhere down the road.
Hold on. They said they don't see it.
I know. You don't see the website. Did you put it in right now? Okay, Angie, we could give us a second. Stacy put it in there. Thank you, Stacy. Realtimesolutions.com. Thank you, moderator Stacy. There it is. Destination www.realtimesolutions.com. Okay, Lucy, last question. Are you a football fan? Yes or no?
I am.
No, I don't hear about no Roll Tide.
That's it. Roll Tide, Colorado. That's all I got.
Colorado. Who played for Colorado? You know.
Sanders boy.
Shador.
Yeah.
Shador. And his other son. So he got two sons. So I love it. Listen, y'all, we'll be back soon. I need y'all to go to also my podcast, the Yolanda and Cornelius Show, on your Apple, your speakers, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora app, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Deezer, Your Way Saving. I might have missed one somewhere. Download that and you can listen to the podcast. Yeah. Yep, Angie, we was there. I watched it. Little nephew cuz went up. But I'm pulling for the 49ers. 49ers all the way. 49ers, because I don't want Dallas to win. I'm for real. I don't want Dallas to win. I never want Dallas to win. So 49ers for me, baby. Sunday night football. I cannot wait. Lucy, you got anything before we get off here? You've been great, girl.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for your audience. Thank you for everybody tuning in. And everybody have an amazing weekend. That's all I got.
Amazing weekend. Stay safe. Stay hydrated. Stay out of those folks' way who you know have no way. Please
set them boundaries, people. Set them
boundaries.
Yes.
And if you don't hear me anymore, know that I love you and ain't nothing you can do about it. Know that I care. Say it with me, Lucy. And care that I know.